Alright, so we've got another battlefield terrain tutorial here in this video. So step by step we'll show you how we created this board and put it together. Nice atmospheric one here, a little bit sort of Star Warsy, kind of Endor kind of style going on here. It's an Imperial base in the middle, brilliant area to fight across, and then surrounded by rocky outcrops and woods and different scattered areas of interest across the table here. So I'll show you step by step all the layers involved with building a terrain setup like this. You can imagine Imperial armies trying to defend this or recapture it, and then Xenos factions, Chaos Space Marines working in this area. It's a nice sort of grimy, grim, dark kind of feel to it here. Very atmospheric board to play your games across. So as per usual, I'll put as many links in the video description as I can just to help you out. Some or all of these stages you can copy. Feel free to do that to create your own games here and terrain setups for games of 40k. It's good to hear the feedback coming through. People have been following these, using these tutorials to give them a guide. There's no reason why you can't get the same kind of setup. It took about 15 minutes to set this board. It'll take about 15 minutes to put it away, and just that little bit of extra effort, a few little extra touches that you can do just to really immerse yourself in the whole vibe and feel of Warhammer 40,000. So first step's nice and straightforward. It gives you a nice colour palette, the colours that you can work with across the table. You can see the rest of the terrain, generally speaking, just matches in nicely with the battle map. This one's called Lost World. This is one of the 6x4, so we mark it off here just by these trees, and that's redundant here for our regular games of 9th edition. But they do this mat 44x60, so the correct size for regular games of Warhammer 40,000. It's available in that size, so you can get a hold of that from gamemat.eu. Put a link for that in the video description below. But the battle mats are brilliant. They give you this nice soft surface. They roll out nice and flat. Look after them, don't let them crease. They come with a carry bag as well, so you can carry them to your local club and so on. Roll out nice and flat, nice and quiet for dice rolling. Figure friendly as well. If models fall over, no problem. It's a nice soft landing for them as well. And then all the colours are here. So we've got areas of green, little rocks and things, dried mud patches, and then moving over to lighter areas. And on this particular map, there's some Eldar runes just gently put onto the board here. You can see them perhaps around the other side. If I just zoom in a little bit, you can see them over there. So quite subtle, so they don't overwhelm the board here. So imagine like the Imperial forces have desecrated this Eldar world, built a base right on top of some ancient Eldar ruins. That'll be enough to antagonise the Eldar for sure. So you're building a bit of narrative with that, or you can cover it up, and it's not too significant when you place the rest of the terrain on the board. So a little bit more of it over here as well. You can see some of the ancient Eldar ruins, but just adds a nice bit of atmosphere, a bit of mystery to the board. So that gives you a foundation, and we try and match the colours of the terrain as much as possible after that. So moving on, once you've got the base down with the mat, the next step is building up your terrain to give you some height, areas to hide behind and so on, just to make the game fair. So you can use buildings and then rocky outcrops and natural features. So this set here is called Grassy Rocks Set. It's one of the pre-painted terrain sets from gamemat.eu. I adjusted it in a previous video just for matching in with the swamp mat that they do, but the terrain colour scheme matches nicely in with this mat. It's handy if you can get terrain sets that match in with a couple of mat designs, so you can swap things around, something to bear in mind. So I dusted this with a bit of spray just to break up the colour a little bit, and then added on some flock. They paint green patches to represent grass, but then I just add PVA glue and drop flock on top of that, just to make the sort of realistic kind of grass effect on there. So you get this piece here. There's also another large piece in that set, that one. You get two large archways, 1 and 2. You get two small archways. There's one buried over there in the woods, and there's one buried just in here. And there's also two of the medium-sized outcrops. There's one over there, and there's one just tucked around the corner across there. So that fills out the table quite nicely, especially these ones. Just gives you that nice height. For battles, usually say these are obscuring, so they just act as nice line of sight blocking terrain across the board. Staying on here, just to add in more realism, the rocks that I sprayed to match up with the previous swamp terrain setup here, they seem to match in quite nicely with this board as well. So again, using these rocks on multiple tables is a nice efficient way of going about things. So you can use that just to blend in at the edges. Combine that with a little bit of lichen, which you can get off eBay or at the hobby shop, and it just breaks up the terrain and just starts to merge it in nicely. So you've actually got printed rocks on the mat, grassy texture, and then it blends in with the loose rocks, and then the flock on here and the lichen, and you're just trying to blend the whole thing to try and make it look as realistic as possible. And the same for the terrain pieces, just blend in with the same stuff. So you'll see that happening across the board. These are just sticks. These are oak, bits of oak twigs just from the woods, broken up, dried out, and just used as a bit of lumber. Cut down. You can imagine the Imperial forces trying to clear line of sight and so on, just lumbering away at some of the wood. So they'd leave piles of it scattered around just to add a bit of realism again. Then these trees, I think they're made by a company called Heike, from your model railway shops. They come pre-painted and pre-made like this. I based them on coins, old coins, to give them a bit of weight. Just super glued them on, this sort of wire structure of a brush type effect on there. And then to add flock, you buy whichever colour flock that you want. It's like a dark green flock. A lot of it's actually come off of these as these have been used over the years. But you just paint it on with PVA glue and then just put the flock on to give the more leafy kind of texture to those. Easily done, and then I can repair them, just recoat them again, add flock back on if you want to add on a bit more sort of bush and flock effect to those. And then I've kept them on individual bases. They're a bit more fiddly to pick up and put away, but it means that they can be individually placed. You can really dot them around your terrain or clump them to go however you want. If you fix them on bases, then they are fixed in place, but individuals is much easier to move around. You can create the clumps if you need to, or you can spread them about and dot them across the board. So all of that effect I've talked about, it covers all of this kind of the outer limit areas across here. There's a bit of club terrain that was made here at SSWG, which is an Eldar spare vehicle just moulded into that, which is a nice feature to add onto the board as well. So then other features, you might not be able to copy exactly what you see here, but it's just a case of trying to incorporate in, if you perhaps got a limited number of buildings and not enough to fill up an entire city board, you can combine it with other terrain sets, then just make like a little zone, like a base, and then add your extra stuff around the edges. So I haven't got enough bunkers and complexes to fill up a whole board, but I can do a little bit here in the middle and then do the extra stuff around the edge. So these two buildings, they might be hard for you to get a hold of, but again, you can just use any kind of buildings that you want. These are the old fire base from Games Workshop and the bastion that they made years ago. Put them on a base, added some extra reinforcements to it because it's just actually a card structure, and then painted and sprayed it up, added some washes and so on for effect. And then your usual battlefield accessories, so bits like this, terrain sets here from Games Workshop. There's some resin cast barrels, pipes and so on being added in just to build it up. There's some Unitron containers in there, some extra stuff here. So you just sort of gradually build up the kind of effect of an Imperial base. Abandoned perhaps or still held, but it just really makes this terrain like into a 40k terrain piece. Then James is here as I'm filming this. Where are these from, James? What's this one?
That is an out of production Games Workshop terrain.
Okay, it's like a foam cast one.
Like a foamy cast one.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's fantastic. Keep a lookout for stuff like that. You might still be able to pick them up on eBay.
I love collecting stuff like that. It's rare to find, but
another piece
it
here.
gives it that depth.
Look at that. I mean, the atmosphere, the setup. I mean, you've got the guard stuff across here, the console and so on. There's another resin cast Forge World piece across there, another one across there. So you might not be able to copy exactly the setup that you see here, but keep a lookout for stuff like this. Sometimes produced by Games Workshop, out of production stuff, sometimes from Forge World. Check out the terrain that they have. You pick up cheap stuff on eBay. There might be alternate companies that produce similar kind of stuff to this that you can use. Etsy is a good place to check, eBay, and so on. And there's companies out there that are offering this kind of terrain. So you just personalize it however you want. There are amazing options out there. So as I said, you might not be able to copy this setup exactly, but you could easily do something like this. No problem. Now, there's something else to point out. If you look at this terrain, I actually painted this up for urban warfare, so you'll see a lot of greys going on here. But I tapped in, added in a little bit of flock, just in little patches. And when you combine that with the lichen and with the rocks, you can actually take an urban bit of terrain, and it's actually blending in quite nicely with the board. It doesn't stick out too much. Because I haven't gone pure grey here. There's brown washes being used, bit of flock, and that just means it's just got that little bit of blending with the rest of the terrain. So I've been able to take this from the urban setting and bring it in to this Outpost board across here. I think that's pretty much it. There's a crater set across there, and that is from our urban setup as well. And again, there's a bit of flock and stuff going on there, so I can just about manage to bring it in. So what you should see across the board is nice continuous colours. Nothing really sticks out of jars here. It's all nice flow going on. Everything matches in quite nicely with the battle mat as your foundation. So with this board, personalised stuff across in the middle. It'll be different for everybody. But your main structure here can be a battle mat here, the Lost World battle mat from GameMat.eu. The rocky outcrops, the rocky grass set as well, just to give you your perimeter structures across here. And the little touches just to blend the whole thing and make it look nice and realistic across the board. I'll put as many links as I can in the video description below. There is a link for GameMat.eu, and if you check there, you'll see a discount code as well. It's 11% off, I believe, so you can get a discount on your stuff from GameMat.eu as well. We'll do the usual here. We'll fade away with some music and pan around the board so you can soak in the atmosphere of this Imperial base. Keep a look out for more tutorials in this series. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.